That's where we're starting?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, I was teaching at Western, and I was teaching English and journalism, and I decided to run for office mainly because um, I'm very interested in education. I grew up in a family of teachers. My mother was one of the first female principals and boys basketball coaches in the state in 1943. As I watched my mom teach and not make very much money, but struggle to try to help her students, I just was very interested in education. I didn't think the state was doing as much as it could. I ran for the House in 1975, and I had there were four of us in the primary election, and of course, two of us in the general election. And I won and immediately got on the education committee. And at the end of my, sort of the end of my first term, of course, term's 2 years for the House members, the chairman of the education committee, who was a good friend of mine, decided to resign from the legislature and take a job in the governor's administration. So when he did that, he recommended that I become chairman of the education committee. So it's a very unusual thing, but I became chairman of the education committee in the House at the end of my first term. And then I stayed as chairman for 7 more years. And so I was chairman of the education committee during that period of time. And then when we redid the education laws in Kentucky because of the court decision in 1988 that said all of the laws dealing with education in Kentucky work together to help some students in some part of the state and harm some students in other parts of the state. And the Constitution said that we had to treat all children and young people the same, approximately. It was an equity lawsuit about whether it was there was equal treatment for students in all parts of the state. So by then, I was no longer chairman of the education committee. I was in House leadership, but I became the co-chairman of one of the 3 committees that rewrote the education, rewrote the education laws in the Education Reform Act, or CARA, in 1990. So that's a long answer. Well, for 14 years, I was Speaker of the House. And of course, during that period of time, my job was somewhat different than it is now. At that time, I actually, of course, presided over the House and appointed committees and committee chairs, and generally was the Speaker or the Chairman of the House. And my counterpart, of course, was the President of the Senate during those 14 years. Now I'm on 3 committees. I'm on Appropriations and Revenue, which is the Budget Committee. I'm on Education Committee and Banking and Insurance. And I'm hoping when we reorganize in January to get on state government, because that's also a very important. But appropriations and revenue, by any standards, is the most important committee, because you write the budget. We write the budget. And I've really enjoyed that committee. And actually, this, in the 34 years I've been in the General Assembly, this is the first time I've been on appropriations. Now, of course, when I was Speaker, I was sort of ex officio on it, and really didn't need to be an official member of it. But that committee, of course, we hear from all the financial people. We hear from the consensus forecasters who tell us how our economy is doing and how it's going to do in the next few months, and all of that is really important. And all the cabinet secretaries come before us to talk about what their cabinet needs in terms of budget. The university presidents come before us, and so on. So that's a very important committee.